I'm Jeffrey Smith. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Responsible Technology, and I wrote the books Seeds of Deception and Genetic Roulette, and the new movie Genetic Roulette, The Gamble of Our Lives.
Kevin W. Reese presents Mortal Missions.
So I'm here with a world authority on GMOs, Jeffrey Smith. Man, my first question is very simple. Why? Why are they here? What's their purpose? And how can we get rid of them?
Well, in the 1990s, Monsanto was looking at their glyphosate or Roundup herbicide as about to expire in its patent in year 2000. So they created a genetically engineered set of crops designed not to die when sprayed with a weed killer as a way to extend essentially the patent. Because when some people buy the seeds, they have to sign a contract that they would use Monsanto's weed killer.
Right.
And that's the primary reason that foods are genetically engineered, to sell weed killer. Now, the weed killer gets absorbed into the crop and into the food portion, and we eat it, and it's linked to cancer and birth defects and endocrine disruption and Parkinson's disease and all sorts of nasties. And that's just one of the problems of GMOs.
Right.
You see, Monsanto found bacteria growing in a chemical waste dump near their factory, not dying in the presence of Roundup, and figured, great, let's put it in the food supply. So they took the gene out of the bacterium, made millions of copies and put it in a gun, and shot that gun into a plate of millions of cells of soybeans, for example, or corn or whatever, and then cloned those into a plant. And that process of insertion plus cloning causes massive collateral damage that can increase allergens, toxins, carcinogens in the plant. And yet that information is not evaluated before the foods get on the market. So we're eating extremely dangerous foods.
And there's no law that says they have to label it, correct? So that we don't even know.
They don't have to label it. They don't even have to tell the FDA. So companies like Monsanto, who told us that PCBs, Agent Orange, and DDT were safe and got it wrong, they can put it on the market without telling the FDA, no safety testing required, without labeling it. And now we have thousands of doctors who've evaluated the few studies that have been done and said, this stuff is so dangerous, I'm telling all of my patients not to eat it. So we have thousands of doctors, even medical organizations, saying no one should be eating GMOs, and yet they're not labeled.
Right. Now you've helped, or you have produced some documentaries, one of which is it Your Milk on Drugs?
Your Milk on Drugs? Just say no. But I got another thing for you. Today we're sending a disc to the duplicator for a 90-minute feature film called Genetic Roulette, The Gamble of Our Lives. And it'll be available at geneticroulettemovie.com.
Okay.
And it shows how when the American Academy of Environmental Medicine told all doctors to prescribe non-GMO diets, they said, if you look at the animal feeding studies, there are certain categories of disorders: reproductive, immune, gastrointestinal, organ damage, accelerated aging, cholesterol and insulin problems. And these were the animal feeding studies. Now we've interviewed doctors, and they say their patients are getting better from these same problems. And we've interviewed veterinarians and farmers. They say their livestock are getting better from these safe problems.
Right.
And then we look at the actual disorders on the rise in the U.S. population, and they're the same ones since GMOs were introduced.
Going back to the milk thing, it seems like milk has become it's like a religious thing. People will argue over milk. 10 people can say it's bad. 10 people can say it's okay, and they'll fight for it. What would you say to somebody that's pro milk? Like, how would you describe what milk does to their body and your viewpoint?
I'm not going to speak on milk generically because it's not my field. I'll speak on genetically engineered bovine growth hormone injected into cows to increase milk supply. Now, here's the way I want to preface this, okay? There were 3 scientists, according to a former scientist in Monsanto who produced the bovine growth hormone. 3 of his colleagues were doing safety studies on the milk from treated cows. After they discovered what they discovered, they refused to drink milk thereafter unless it was organic. One bought his own cow.
Wow.
So what they discovered in the milk was higher levels of a hormone called IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, which is linked to cancer. Women with high levels of IGF-1, premenopausal, are 7 times more likely to get breast cancer. Men are 4 times more likely to get prostate cancer, and it's in higher levels in the milk from treated cows.
Wow, that's incredible stuff right there. Now you're a busy guy. You got books.
I have only a minute, by the way. So I'm really busy.
You got books out there. You got documentaries out there. You've been on TV. You've been on Dr. Oz. You have your school. What's with the time that you have? What's your mortal mission? What is your mission to the world?
Well, our mission stated in our Institute for Responsible Technology at responsibletechnology.org is very simple: to stop the genetic engineering of the food supply and end the outdoor release of genetically modified organisms. Consider this. They're releasing the product of an infant science into the food supply, so everyone who eats it is at risk. They're putting it into the environment where it can cross-pollinate and spread, where there's no technology to fully recall it. So it'll outlast the effects of global warming and nuclear waste. So we have a technology that affects all human beings, all living organisms, all future generations, and there's no safety studies necessary, and the research done by industry is largely tobacco science. We have caught them absolutely red-handed, lying about their stuff, covering up problems. The same companies have been convicted of lying in the past about the safety of their products, so we know we can't trust them. And yet the U.S. is engaged in bullying the rest of the nations on trying to accept GMOs. And now there's pretty much overwhelming evidence that it's harmful, but the distortion and denial does not stop.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time, certainly.
Thank you.
And I look forward to your speech. So
Great.
all right.
Thanks so much.
Kevin W. Reese.